Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and today I'm going to be doing a discussion over Aeon's End, Past and Future. Now at the time of this recording, this is the newest expansion to Aeon's End, and I say that because there's a lot of content for Aeon's End. So Aeon's End is my favorite deck builder. Like, it's not even close on if anyone's just going to be like, which deck builder? Aeon's End. That's kind of like, it's the game that got me into deck building, because prior to that, I had actually hated the concept of deck building. And this one was just so tactile and so much fun and unique that I hadn't seen before. So I've been a fan ever since I played the base game, which is a lot of expansions back, because they've done like many standalone expansions, side expansions, 2 legacy games, one being huge with content, and now they have this one, Past and Future, which the concept of really intrigued me, because when you read the synopsis or the summary of what Past and Future is, they sound super cool. So, like, the past is thousands of years before the age of Gravehold, before the void itself. Humanity lived in great cities in the world that was. Humanity prospered with a golden age of science and technology heralded by the great university in the city of Arethysa. But a mysterious calamity rocks the peaceful world, and the decisions of a few mages will have repercussions that echo for millennia to come. And then the future is hundreds of years after the events of Legacy of Gravehold. Humanity continues to spread across the surface in small communities built up around the ruins of the past. With the spread of Azarian glyph magic, the world is safer from Nameless than ever before. But no one is ever truly safe, with the void lurking behind every breach, and the mistakes of the past are wavering to rear their ancient heads. So whenever I first heard of this concept, I was extremely fascinated, because it's like, oh, thousands of years after, like in the future, is there going to be like some wild tech? Is the future of this going to be what leads into Astronites? So they're done with this, and they're all going to focus on Astronites, and there's going to be a whole universe? That's yet to be seen. The future is not Astronites. Like, it's not like, oh, okay, we're done with this, now go play Astronites, and that's basically Aeon's End future. No, it's not like that. But then going to the past, it's like, oh man, everything that's in Aeon's End centers around Gravehold. From the very beginning all the way to Legacy of Gravehold, it's about Gravehold. So what was before all that? Well, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to talk about the narrative of these 2 books. So what it is with this expansion, you're basically getting 8 games total. And really, you're getting 6 games, because in both of these, you can pick whichever one you want to start with. I can tell you that you don't have to do past and then go to future, because I didn't, and it made sense. It was actually kind of cool, like, because these do connect in some way narratively. I'm not going to go into spoilers, but they do connect. It's not like this is off on its own thing and then has nothing to do with this, which I was very surprised about. But you essentially, the first game of both of these, you fight a Nameless you already have. And this is this expansion is not standalone like the other ones of Outcast and New Age. This one you actually have to have content. You have to have one of those 2 to even play. And that was kind of a little bit disappointing, but it wasn't like too bad, because both of these introduce like new concepts. The future one focuses on something that's called develop, and past focuses on something called swap. And a lot of the cards that you unlock integrate those new mechanisms. And so the very first one of each one is kind of like, hey, here's something you're familiar with, and now we have some new cards just to kind of test, show you what it's like, and then it just gives you more of that. So from that point on, the second, third, and fourth of both past and future are new Nameless to fight and a new story. But really, it's very bare bones, which is not bad. After Legacy, they kind of did these short mini campaigns, just like In this case, it's like pre-fight story, and then fight, and then when you win, it's post-fight. And I mean, already, like, it tells you, hey, fight this. If you win, read the next section. If you lose, fight it again. And then if you lose again, just read on. That's just so lazy. Like, I hate that redo things. I've talked about it many times in board gaming. It's like, unless you just want, personally be like, I just want to actually win before I see what happens. That's my reward for actually doing well. And that's perfectly fine, but I wish there was like a mechanism or something that would allow you to be like, you fail forward into the story. It's, hey, if you win, you get this reward. If you lose, you get this penalty. Something like that. But essentially, you're playing 4 games each, 3 of which are unique and tied into the narratives. And then you just kind of unlock stuff that just gets added in. If you're wondering what these are, this is my storage solution. And then I also have another box that only holds the Breach Mages and the Nameless. So these are basically 2 things of cards. This is like all the Nameless cards, and these are all the market cards. In terms of the narrative, Aeon's End has never been strong in narrative. It's not bad. Like, and I wouldn't even really say it's basic. Like, the characters have, like, you can tell they're characters, but whenever you're playing, like, a campaign, you kind of want something out of it. They're kind of like, we need the stubborn, strong-willed one. We need the nerd. We need they're almost caricatures. But it's serviceable for the story. Between these two, I actually think I like the past more. And I'll talk about kind of why the future was a little upsetting, because it almost seems like they wrote for the past and then just kind of was like, shit. Yeah, we have a concept for the future. And I'll go into a little bit of narrative, not specific spoilers, but I'll kind of just generic spoilers. So the past one was very high fantasy. That's what it came off. It's like if you played WoW or things like that, it's just like big. It talks about the city of whatever, or Erythea. It just gives me that grandiose, big D&D kind of city. But you also never really experience that. Whatever those synopses I read are barely in this for both of them, and it leaves a lot to be desired. But the past just kind of felt like, and maybe it's because I played the future one, that whenever I went and did the past, the narrative stuff, I was like, oh, I know what it's leading to. So that made me kind of like it more. So maybe you kind of should play them both and just compare, like, not even compare them to each other. Just be like, hey, this is one full story. But since you choose which one you want to start with, that might determine which one you like more. I just kind of like the overall setting of the past more than I liked the future. And I'll keep talking about the narrative before I talk about the actual abilities. So, like I mentioned, this is only 4 stories, and it's basically just kind of, hey, we have to write something to lead to a fight, and we have to write something after that leads into another fight until you kind of get the ending. So I really, you're not going to be getting anything that's like Legacy of Gravehold. You're not getting a overly like huge done story. That's not to say they won't do it. As far as I'm aware, Aeon's End is not done. I really would love them to explore both of these settings a lot more. Like, I would love a standalone big campaign set in, the thousands of years before Gravehold, which is the past, and then the thousands of years after Gravehold in the future, and just really expand on that, because the bones are here. These are the bones, and they can do a lot with this, I think. So, in terms of the nameless fights between the two, it's still fantastic. Like, I don't know how they've done it, because let's see, how many are there? I don't want to count them all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. I have 43 in here, and there's actually more because I don't have my Legacy of Gravehold stuff in this yet. So over 50 nameless, and this is the newest expansion, and they all slap. They're so unique in what they do. Now the core elements, like yeah, they have a side deck or they do this, but like the way that they play is just so neat, especially the fight fours for both of them. It's like that's big. Like those are really cool nameless. So, and there was definitely a theme kind of going on with the nameless, so it fit. When you were fighting a nameless, it fit into here. It wasn't just like, oh, you're walking through the woods and you come across, I don't know. I can't think of anything, but it's it fit for the narrative here. And what's also neat about the past specifically is the character. So normally whenever you, like the breach mages, they usually have like 1 or 2 kind of unique cards, and then they have crystals and sparks. The characters in the past had like multiple unique cards into their deck, which I thought was really neat. Like instead of it being like, oh yeah, here's their one unique card, it's like, wow, there's like 4 unique cards in here, which kind of really diversified them. I don't know why they did that. I can't really think of a story reason why they did, but it's there. So the past one I liked. The future one's ending, like its phase 4 fight, was cool only because I knew after I had done the past, like I'm kind of recalling back, so that's what happened. That's pretty neat. But the future is really disappointing. Because you would think, like, thousands of years they've advanced beyond magic, or they integrate magic into tech. But then you think, well, they've already done that. And I almost feel like they knew they were doing Astronites, so they didn't want to confuse the two. So you didn't have to have weird cards that are like, this is Astronite cards. It's still magic. Breach mages, magic. Some of the characters are, well, at least one of them, is tech, like he's basically an android. And even then it's like, okay, yeah, that's your closest to sci-fi, like, but there's other characters in the past even they uses gadgets, and I mean they say it's science for the past, but well, the future should be really focused on the science. And you don't, because you're so familiar with Aeons and magic and you just kind of think of a fantasy world, the past feels more at home. But the future one, they do not, this is going to be the generalized spoiler, they don't do anything sci-fi-y, which maybe that was my own perception of thinking that that's what they were going to do, and they were probably like, we never said we were doing that. And that's perfectly fine. I was thinking, thousands of years after Legacy of Gravehold, now we're in the future, so we should be getting some tech, some moving away from magic and using, plasma pistols or something like that. I just think that they kind of really wanted to stay away from that so as to not confuse it with Astronites, because some people might be like, well, why would I play Astronites whenever I can just play future stuff with Aeon's End? That is my speculation. So small spoiler here, the entirety of the future is in the void. So not in the future, like not sci-fi at all. If that's what you're expecting, like I was expecting. So maybe that's just what I thought, and that was never even close to a reality. But because of that, I didn't really feel like it deferred itself enough, because again, they don't really go into depth in either of these. But yeah, so that's the narrative elements of both of these. Now let's go into the actual mechanics of the game. And I have some of the cards nearby. Mainly I'm going to be using these randomizers because I don't want to dig through this again. So let's talk about the future, since I was just talking about it. So the future introduces something called Develop. and they both give you these player rates. So when you're playing one, you can just have this out, and it's like, oh, what is develop mean again? Because that's the huge newness of it. And develop is really, really cool. So cards will have a development cost underneath them. Let's see. So one of the gems, for example, is called a Splintered Garnet. And up at the top, it has a cost of 5. So you pay 5 Aether and you can just put that into your deck. But underneath it, it has a development cost. And you can pay that to set that over into a arbitrary development area. And then you can, at a later time, purchase it for its development cost again to pull that into your deck. And this one, for example, is, or not into your deck, into your discard pile. But this one is a cost of 4. So you might be thinking, well, what the hell? Why would you pay 4 when you can pay 5 to actually just get the card? Well, there's a couple reasons. One, having 5 Aether, especially at the beginning of a game, hell, even sometimes throughout the game, it's kind of hard. And if that's how much you have, that's usually all you're doing. You're either buying one card or you're kind of dealing with powers and things. So 5 is still kind of a lot. 4 is somewhat more manageable, but the reason why 4 is really cool is because if I spend 4 and it goes off to the development area, at a later time, myself or an ally can actually pay the 4 to pull it. So you have a lot more cooperation of how Aether is getting spent instead of using abilities or specific cards that let players grab stuff. One, I think that's really cool because it's like, oh man, like, okay, like if we can get you this card and you have ability to like draw, like then maybe we can get this into your hand for your next turn or whatever it might be. If you have an ability that pulls cards from your discard pile, cool. Well, then I'm gonna spend 4 to pay this to put this out there, and then you can spend your 4 Aether to pull it in, and then use your ability to draw it. Just something like that. But the second reason why that the development is important is because a lot of cards have development abilities. This one, for example, is when you develop this, destroy a gem you played this turn, and that developing is when you put it into the development area and also when you pull it out. So this card alone can thin your deck out and cull gems out just for paying a cheaper cost. And this also gives you 3 Aether. So yeah, overall, if you're the one putting it in the area and taking it out, it's costing you 8. But in this particular example, it's taken out 2 gems. And I just think that's insanely neat. Like there's the Citrine Shrapnel. Gain 1 Aether for each copy of this card in the development zone. So other things stack as well. Like you can just spend, and this one just costs 3. So it's 3 to take or 3 to develop. But it's like, well, there's 5 of them in here. So I can pay the 3 to take this card. And then that would leave 4. So pay 12 over time. Put those all in here. So that means this one card is like a 4. So you can gain 1 shrapnel, gain 1 Aether for each one in there, or develop a Citrine Shrapnel. So you can just use this card to get them in there. So now it eventually becomes, like way more powerful over time because you're developing them. Some spells that I think are really neat is like Building Storm. This one is a 4 cost, but to develop is only 2. And this deals 2 damage, but it deals 1 additional damage for every Building Storm in the development zone. So for 1 4 cost, you can get one of these and then put all the other 2 in there. So this one card can do 6 damage. Or later on, you pay 2, pull that out, and then now you have 2, but 3 are in there. So now this one card does 5 damage. And if you have 2 of them prepped, you do 10 damage. So there's a lot of really cool combos with the development. And not every card has a development ability, just significantly reduced cost. It's like, okay, this one costs 7 to get, but the development is 4. And this one deals 5 damage divided however you choose to the Nemesis and any number of minions, which is really cool to spread out damage, which is kind of hard to do. And you might be thinking, okay, well that's 4, but if you pull it in there and pull it out, that's 8. You actually spent more. But since you're not spending 8 or 7 at once, it's way more efficient, I think. So the development ability is insanely neat, and is completely unique from any mechanism I've seen that's been added. Then we go into the past, and the past really focuses on swap. Now, swap is very interesting because the cards, I'm trying to find, oh, here we go. The cards that deal with swap, let me see. Oh yeah, so, like for example, we have a card, so the cards that deal with swap are actually kind of like set off to the side. They're not actually involved in any way. It's like the development area, you just put them off to the board if you have cards that swap into them. So for example, one of the spells is called Consume Magic. Deal 3 damage. If this defeats a minion from the Nemesis deck, swap this card for Detonate. And Detonate, if I can find it, yes. Right here. So Detonate now is deal 3 damage to a minion, deal 3 damage to the Nemesis. So it's a way more powerful ability, but it's still related to the previous card, because that one just dealt 3 damage. And then if you kill a minion with that, then you get the one that deals 3 damage to a minion and to a Nemesis. And some cards will swap back, but mainly you're swapping into something, and those cards just kind of stay off to the side. Like Cavernous Maw deals 2 damage. You may destroy a card in your discard pile that costs 4 or more. If you do, swap this card for Dragon Flare and place it on top of your deck. And let's see, Dragon Flare just deals 5 damage. And the Cavernous Maw costs 3. This one costs 6. Because you also don't have to do the swap stuff. You can just have these cards out. But what's also neat is not every single thing is like a 1-to-1. Like a spell doesn't always go into a spell. If I remember correctly, I feel like I remember seeing something that that turned into something else. That's Aether Rune. So those are develops. Yeah, I very much remember seeing something that swapped into like a relic or a gem. But it might be 1-to-1 now that I'm looking at all this stuff. But also what's neat is the swap abilities also have like different ways to do it. So like Harbinger Descent is a 8-cost spell. You deal 6 damage. You may discard 3 of your other prep spells to swap this card for Apocalypse. Now Apocalypse is obviously a spell, but while prepped, all your other prep spells have Echo, and Echo is a keyword that like I think it means the spell cast twice, and this also when you cast it deals 6 damage. That's insane. Diamond. Let's see. And there is a little icon that shows that, hey, this is a swapped ability. Let's see. Illuminate. Maybe it is 1-to-1. I could have sworn I saw something that was like, hey, it swaps into something else. But either way, because I haven't used every single one of these cards. Whenever you're doing the story, you can take certain ones out. But the swap is extremely neat. There is something else that the past added, and it's not, well, it's Aether tokens. Aether tokens are from, I think, another expansion that you could spend them for an Aether. But there's also something called Knowledge. Specific characters use Knowledge. They gain it to be able to use like certain cards. Like one of the characters in the past she has Raw Tourmaline in her deck. Gain 1 Aether. You may spend 3 Knowledge to swap this card for Spectralite. When you gain a card that costs 6 Aether or more this turn, gain 1 Knowledge. And so Spectralite just is gain 2 Aether, and you can recall, place a gem or relic, play this turn on top of your deck. So even the past characters have unique things that allow them to swap. Yeah, so overall, like, I think between the two, it's funny, I like the past kind of storyline and the past Nemesises more, but I really like the develop. I don't know why, that kind of like cooperation planning it just works for me. But swap is still really neat too. You get 6 new name lists, you get 8 new characters, and you get a headache of trying to figure out how to store it all because it's just not done well, I think. Let's see. I think that's pretty much it. Now, as an expansion, it's not going to revolutionize Aeon's End. If you don't like Aeon's End, this expansion isn't going to do it for you. But if you love Aeon's End, there is no reason why you shouldn't get this expansion because it's more content. It's new Nameless. It's new Breach Mages. It's new cards that just fill up an entire artist case. Like the possibilities really are really are endless. And I've been toying around with the idea of doing like a video showcasing every Nameless, which would be a lot of videos now that I just counted them. Just to show them as one-offs, just fighting, it'd be a regular, like a Aeons End playthrough, but it would be of every Nameless. So let me know in the comments if you actually want to see that. I might just do it anyway. But past and future, really cool. A little bit disappointed on the actual narrative parts. I wanted more out of them. They're fine. They work for an expansion, but I really just kind of wanted to explore before Gravehold and after Gravehold stuff. And they do a lot of Easter eggs, like in the flavor text of the characters and flavor text of the Nameless. They do callbacks to other stuff. If you've played every single expansion like I have, you're like, oh yeah, no, I remember that. I remember who's talking and what happened here. I was like, oh, that's really neat that they found a way to link these two. You should play them both, but you don't have to play them in order. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That is the Aeon's End past and future. I don't want to showcase characters, or I don't want to showcase Nameless because they're shown throughout I want you kind of to experience something. But highly recommend this expansion. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I was originally thinking a 10, but as I'm reflecting more on the narrative, I think I'm actually going to drop it to a 9. I know, it's basically trash with that. No, it's still a 9. It's phenomenal. The new mechanisms are amazing. But I think they could have done more, and maybe they will. I think these are ripe for more story stuff and more content. So I'm hoping Aeon's End isn't done. I really get excited whenever they bring out new expansions, and yeah, so that's my thoughts on Aeon's End past and future. Let me know what you think of the expansion in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.